It's Thursday, the 22nd of May. Welcome to the President's Daily Brief. I'm Mike Baker, your eyes and ears on the world stage. All right, let's get briefed. We'll kick things off with revealing new intelligence. U.S. officials believe that Israel is preparing to strike Iranian nuclear facilities, setting the stage for possible conflict, even as Washington pursues a diplomatic path with the mullahs. Later in the show, a shocking look at cartel brutality south of the U.S. border. Officials have uncovered another suspected death camp in rural Mexico, this time a 40-acre ranch where victims were allegedly tortured, murdered, and incinerated. Plus, a murder mystery in Spain. A former top Ukrainian official with deep ties to the pro-Russian regime is gunned down outside an American school in Madrid, Spain. And in today's back of the brief, Canada is considering joining President Trump's ambitious new missile defense program, dubbed the Golden Dome. We'll take a look at why Canada wants in and what it means for North American security. But first, today's PDB Spotlight. We'll begin today with reports that Israel may make good on their threat to go it alone against Iran if the Trump administration attempts to pursue a new nuclear deal that Jerusalem views as too weak. Newly intercepted intelligence, shared exclusively with CNN by multiple U.S. officials, suggests Israel is already making preparations to strike Iranian nuclear facilities, a move that could kick off a fresh conflict in the Middle East and would represent a serious break with President Trump, who's still hoping to find a diplomatic solution to Tehran's nuclear ambitions. Of course, well, not to put too fine a point on it, but the Iranian regime doesn't represent an existential threat to the U.S. It does, however, represent an existential threat to Israel. So, Israel and the U.S. naturally view Iran from different perspectives, which, of course, earns me the PDB Statement of the Obvious award for the day. The officials stressed that it remains unclear if Israeli leaders have made a final decision on whether or not to attack, but said the likelihood, quote, has gone up significantly in recent months, particularly as Jerusalem grows increasingly frustrated with the Trump administration's approach to Middle East diplomacy. They point to recently intercepted Israeli communications, along with observations of Israeli military movements that suggest that a strike could be imminent. According to sources familiar with the intelligence, the Israeli military has been quietly redeploying munitions and other assets to strategic locations, and just recently completed a round of air exercises that may have simulated possible strikes against Iranian nuclear sites. Some U.S. officials said the moves may simply be geared at sending a message to Iran of the consequences that they'll face if they don't abandon their uranium enrichment program. But others, well, are concerned that the activity means Israel may choose to act unilaterally. They note that Israeli officials have routinely expressed their desire in private to take out Iran's nuclear capacity, fearing the mullahs are attempting to use diplomacy as a distraction as they increase the enrichment efforts. In April, the UN's nuclear watchdog warned that Iran now possesses roughly 605 pounds of uranium enriched up to 60%, which they could theoretically convert into weapons-grade material within 1 to 2 weeks. Leaders in Israel also reportedly see Iran's nuclear sites as uniquely vulnerable due to the collapse of their once-strong proxy network over the past year. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz bluntly warned the mullahs earlier this month that if they continue to wage a proxy war on the Jewish state, they'll meet the same fate as their other regional allies like Hezbollah, Hamas, and the now-deposed Assad regime. He added that Israel was prepared to act alone. The sources said Israel's decision will ultimately come down to what kind of nuclear deal ends up materializing, if any. One person familiar with U.S. intelligence told CNN, quote, the prospect of a Trump-negotiated U.S.-Iran deal that doesn't remove all of Iran's uranium makes the chance of a strike more likely, end quote. As a reminder, the Trump administration has been conducting diplomatic talks with the Islamic regime since early April of this year. While U.S. officials described the fourth round of negotiations on the 11th of May in Oman as encouraging, the discussions have yet to yield any concrete results. The impasse is reportedly over whether or not Iran will be allowed to continue the domestic enrichment of uranium at a lower level for what they dubiously claim are civilian purposes. President Trump has repeatedly insisted that any deal must include Iran's full abandonment of enrichment activities. That's an outcome that Iran's leadership continues to reject. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff reiterated that message in a Sunday interview with ABC News, stating, quote, "We cannot allow even 1% of an enrichment capability," calling that red line non-negotiable. Still, at various points over the past few weeks, Witkoff and other senior officials have given contrasting answers on whether they will allow Tehran to maintain their so-called civilian nuclear program, leaving Israeli leaders on edge. A source told CNN, quote, "I think it's more likely they strike to try and get the deal to fall apart if they think Trump is going to settle for a bad deal. The Israelis have not been shy about signaling that to us, both publicly and privately," end quote. But Israel finds itself in a tough spot. For one, Netanyahu does not want to alienate Trump and risk fracturing U.S.-Israeli ties by launching a strike without at least tacit approval from the White House. Additionally, Israel does not have the capabilities to deliver a death blow to Iran's nuclear program without American support, as they lack the bombs required to penetrate facilities that are buried deep underground. While Trump has repeatedly threatened strong military action if Iran does not yield to his demands, a source said the U.S. is currently unlikely to help Israel carry out the strikes. For now, negotiations continue, with another round of talks potentially in the works for later this week in Europe. But it appears Israel may soon run out of patience with Trump's diplomatic approach. All right, coming up after the break, grisly cartel killings uncovered on a remote Mexican ranch. And a former pro-Russian Ukrainian official is gunned down outside a school in Madrid. I'll be right back. Hey, Mike Baker here. Let's take just a few seconds to talk about financial health, right? Oh yeah, everybody's favorite subject, but it's very important. Now, look, when your credit isn't perfect, it can really feel like the system is stacked against you, right? But there's a company out there able to help, and that company is Kickoff. That's Kikoff. Kickoff gives you the smartest tools to build real credit fast. Look, with transparent, affordable plans starting at just, get this, $5 per month, no hidden fees, and zero interest, well, Kickoff helps you score big when it comes to credit. And it's simple. You make on-time payments, credit bureaus see good behavior, and your credit can grow fast. Users with credit under 600 grew an average of 84 points in their first year with Kickoff. With over 1 million users and thousands of positive reviews, there's a reason why Kickoff is the #1 credit builder app. Start building credit with Kickoff today, and you can get your first month for as little as $1. That's right, $1. That's 80% off the normal price when you go to getkickoff.com/Mike today. That's Kickoff without the C. getkickoff.com/Mike. Must sign up via getkickoff.com/Mike to activate offer. Offer applies to new Kickoff customers first month only. Subject to approval and offer subject to change. Average first-year credit score impact of 84 points. Vantage score 3.0 between January 2023 and January 2024 for Kickoff credit account users who started with a score below 600, who paid on time, and who had no delinquencies or collections added to their credit profile during the period. Late payments may negatively impact your credit score, and individual results may vary. Welcome back to the PDB. Another cartel-run death camp has been uncovered in western Mexico, where victims were allegedly tortured, murdered, and incinerated on a sprawling 40-acre ranch operated by the Jalisco New Generation cartel. Local activists in Colima state unearthed a site where investigators discovered charred bone fragments, burned out vehicles, and partially buried corpses, some reportedly still smoldering when authorities arrived. The property, roughly the size of 80 football fields, was described by one official as a narco-execution ground where victims were, quote, sewn in the soil. Grisly photos from the scene show bones protruding from the dirt, shredded clothing, and scattered pieces of ID cards believed to belong to the victims. About 40% of the remains are buried and burned, some chemically, while the rest were dumped or partially buried. A state security official told the Financial Times, quote, that area is infested with guys from the Jalisco cartel in armored cars. They would bring people up there to torture them and then bury them. So far, only 3 of 42 bodies have been identified, mostly men aged 25 to 39. This isn't the first time that the property has drawn the attention of federal forces. In 2018, it was raided and a high-ranking trafficker was arrested in connection with both drug smuggling and the assassination of a former Colima governor. But whatever disruption that caused was short-lived. Criminal groups quickly resumed using the ranch as a disposal site. The discovery underscores a broader truth in Mexico's long-running drug war, the sheer impunity with which these criminal groups operate. Over 120,000 people have disappeared in the past 2 decades. Years of half measures and political paralysis have left authorities often reluctant to challenge powerful cartels directly, leaving victims' families to search for justice on their own. Now, there are growing signs that the violence may be entering a more dangerous phase. Footage circulating on social media appears to show dozens of heavily armed new generation fighters alongside members of Los Chapitos, that's a Sinaloa cartel faction led by the sons of Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. In the video, a man off camera declares, quote, "This is just about to get started. The rumors are true. The alliance between the new generation cartel and La Chapito is confirmed." Though the video's exact date remains unclear, its circulation follows a DEA intelligence bulletin warning of a potential alignment between the two groups, former enemies now apparently joining forces. If confirmed, such an alliance would represent a tectonic shift in Mexico's criminal underworld. New Generation and Los Chapitos have long been at war, both with each other and with rival Sinaloa factions like Los Mayos. American officials believe New Generation may be strategically backing Los Chapitos in a bid to outmaneuver the Mayos and consolidate control over trafficking routes. In a memo released earlier this month, the DEA cautioned that Jalisco New Generation was, quote, capitalizing on the conflict between the Los Mayos and Los Chapitos factions by choosing sides in favor of their former rivals, end quote. The agency warned that such a merger could dramatically, quote, expand these groups' territories, resources, firepower, and access to corrupt officials. And the ripple effects wouldn't be confined to Mexico. The DEA cautioned that this alliance could accelerate the northbound trafficking of fentanyl and other synthetic drugs while fueling the southbound flow of firearms and cash. Okay, shifting to Spain, Andrei Portnov, a notorious former aide to pro-Russian Ukrainian leader Viktor Yanukovych, was gunned down outside a private school on Wednesday in a killing that bore the hallmarks of a targeted political hit. Portnov, a lawyer and the former deputy head of Yanukovych's regime, was shot multiple times by several gunmen as he approached his car outside the American school of Madrid. Spanish authorities say multiple assailants opened fire, striking him 3 times, including once in the head. He died shortly after emergency crews arrived. The attackers fled on foot into a nearby wooded area. Police cordoned off the scene and launched a manhunt, but no arrests have been made. The school, which serves over 1,000 students from the U.S., Spain, and dozens of other countries, confirmed that the shooting occurred just after morning drop-off of students. Administrators notified parents that all students were safe. The victim, they said, was believed to be the father of a student, though official identification was still pending. As investigators comb the scene, suspicions, are swirling. Portnov wasn't just any Ukrainian exile. His ties to Ukraine's old pro-Russian power structure ran deep. Appointed in 2010, he led the Main Directorate for Judicial Reform and held a seat on the National Bank's board. Portnov fled Ukraine alongside Yanukovych in 2014 after the pro-European Maidan uprising ousted the government and remained in exile until returning to Kyiv in 2019. Though the Ukrainian government never imposed sanctions on him, Portnov was sanctioned by the U.S. Treasury in 2021 under the Magnitsky Act, which targets foreign officials accused of human rights violations and corruption. The department said he was, quote, credibly accused of using his influence to buy access and decisions in courts and undermining reform efforts. When Russia launched its full-scale invasion in 2022, Portnov bolted again, despite a national ban preventing military-age men from leaving the country. Ukrainian authorities later opened a case examining his possible role in the annexation of Crimea. That quickly disappeared. Portnov's name resurfaced in late 2024 when Ukrainian civil groups petitioned for sanctions, accusing him of judicial meddling and targeting journalists, including leaking personal information of Radio Free Europe reporters. Despite over 25,000 signatures, the cabinet dismissed it, citing insufficient grounds. Now, with his murder under investigation in Spain, the specter of retribution has re-entered the conversation, obviously. Spanish investigators are treating the shooting as a high-priority homicide with international ramifications. Well, there. Well done, Poirot. It's the latest in a string of violent incidents on Spanish soil linked to the broader Russia-Ukraine conflict. Back in 2022, a Ukrainian embassy staffer in Madrid was wounded by a bomb in the mail. Additional explosives were sent to the Spanish Prime Minister and other high-profile targets. A Spanish man was later arrested for the campaign, which authorities said was designed to pressure Madrid into pulling back support for Ukraine. And just last year, a Russian military pilot who defected to Ukraine was found shot dead in a parking garage in a southern Spanish province. Portnoy's killing has reignited speculation of a broader campaign targeting remnants of the Yanukovych regime. In 2015, 3 former MPs from Yanukovych's party died by suspected suicide. That same year, a pro-Russian journalist and another former lawmaker were shot dead in Kyiv, fueling theories of a coordinated effort to eliminate old regime insiders. So far, Kyiv has stayed silent on Portnoy's death. Okay, coming up next in the back of the brief, Canada is eyeing a role in Trump's high-tech Golden Dome initiative. The missile defense system promises protection from next-generation threats and closer U.S.-Canada military ties. I'll have those details next. Hey, Mike Baker here. Now, this July, I suspect you've already heard about this, but it's important. This July, there's going to be a global summit of BRICS nations to be held in Rio de Janeiro. That sounds like a posh spot. The bloc of emerging superpowers, which includes China and Russia, India and Iran, well, they're meeting with the goal of displacing the US dollar as the global currency. And they're calling that effort, it's a clever name, the Rio Reset. As BRICS nations push forward with their plans, well, demand for US dollars could decrease, of course, bringing down the value of the dollar. Now, while the transition won't happen overnight, the Rio Reset does mark a pivotal moment when BRICS objectives move from possibility toward reality. So you ask yourself, how can you help protect your hard-earned dollar savings? Well, might I suggest you check in with the professionals over at Birch Gold Group. Birch Gold can help you move your hard-earned dollar savings into a tax-sheltered IRA in precious metals. To claim your free information kit on gold, just text PDB to 989-898. Look, with an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers, let Birch Gold arm you with a free information kit on owning gold before July and that Rio Reset. Just text PDB to 989-898 today. In today's Back of the Brief, President Trump's ambitious plans for a futuristic space-based missile defense shield to protect the U.S. from next-generation aerial threats is catching the eye of America's northern neighbor. As we discussed on yesterday's PDB, Trump announced Tuesday plans for a multi-billion-dollar project to build a new comprehensive air defense system dubbed the Golden Dome. And it appears Canada wants in. Canadian leaders are already in, quote, active discussions with the U.S. on joining the endeavor as part of broader negotiations currently underway regarding trade and national security, prompted by Trump's imposition of steep tariffs earlier this year. That's according to a report from the BBC. While details of the proposed missile shield remain vague, Trump said the Golden Dome will set a new standard for regional defense, protecting against ballistic and cruise missiles, as well as, importantly, advanced hypersonic weapons. The president teased Tuesday that Canada had expressed keen interest on being included under the new security umbrella, telling reporters, quote, "We'll be talking to them. They want to have protection also, so as usual, we help Canada." The project will have an initial investment of $25 billion, but is expected to cost at least $175 billion in total. I suspect that total could rise. It's not yet clear how Canada would participate in the system's development and how much money they would contribute toward its construction. But, as you might imagine, Trump stressed that he would be looking to ensure the Canadians, quote, pay their fair share. A spokesperson for Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney said Wednesday, quote, Canadians gave the Prime Minister a strong mandate to negotiate a comprehensive new security and economic relationship with the U.S. To that end, the Prime Minister and his ministers are having wide-ranging and constructive discussions with their American counterparts. The spokesperson added that, quote, these discussions naturally include strengthening NORAD and related initiatives such as the Golden Dome, end quote. A partnership on the project would be natural, frankly, as the U.S. and Canada already collaborate through the North American Aerospace Defense Command, or NORAD, a system responsible for defending North American airspace and waters from potential threats. But NORAD has long needed modernizing to better defend against increasingly sophisticated weapons, such as hypersonic missiles. Trump says the Golden Dome is the answer to those threats and has vowed to have it fully operational by the end of his second term. The Golden Dome will reportedly involve technologies across land, sea, and space, including space-based sensors and interceptors. Analysts have speculated it will probably work by employing thousands of satellites to spot and track missiles and fire interceptors from orbit to neutralize any potential incoming missiles. There you go. But as I mentioned on yesterday's PDB, significant doubts remain about the project's viability, particularly the incredibly short time frame that President Trump has outlined to build the shield. Now, while it may be inspired by Israel's Iron Dome, that system has the much simpler task of defending a nation a fraction of the size of the continental U.S. Adding Canada to the mix would require the Golden Dome to be able to defend against aerial threats on an enormous geographical scale, something that some experts say is simply not possible. But Trump projected his usual optimism when making the announcement, saying, quote, we'll have it done in 3 years, end quote. And that, my friends, is the President's Daily Brief for Thursday, the 22nd of May. Now, if you have any questions or comments, and I hope you do, please reach out to me at pdb@thefirsttv.com. And, of course, to listen to the show ad-free, which you can do, very simply, might I add, become a premium member of the President's Daily Brief simply by visiting pdbpremium.com. I'm Mike Baker, and I'll be back later today with the PDB Afternoon Bulletin. Until then, stay informed, stay safe, stay cool. Hey, Mike Baker here. I want to take just a few seconds of your time to tell you about a great home fitness company. I'm talking about JackedUp Fitness. Look, JackedUp Fitness makes amazing gym equipment for home use, making it easier than ever to be consistent with your strength training workouts. And of course, strength training is key to your overall fitness. As an example, their all-new X Series elevates home fitness to a whole new level. The Power Rack Pro X functional trainer lets you do hundreds of exercises from the comfort of your own home. I've got a Power Rack Pro at my place, and it is outstanding. Great construction. It's just like being at the gym. It features a completely upgraded cable crossover system with articulating pulley arms, giving you unlimited width combinations to hit every muscle group. And if you're new to strength training, don't worry. They offer a free Get Jacked Up program that has full-body video workouts. Simply press play and follow along. It's really that simple. Take control of your fitness. Go to getjackedup.com and sign up for their free training program. You won't regret it. When you're ready to purchase your own Power Rack Pro X, just use my promo code BAKER, that's B-A-K-E-R, to save 10% at checkout. That's getjackedup.com.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button and leave a comment, a really positive, nice, and kind comment. That would be appreciated. And if you're not already subscribed to our channel, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our daily updates.